Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about something every architect needs to know, but hopes they never have to use: how to clean up a contaminated building site. This is absolutely critical stuff, so let's break it down.
Okay, just imagine this for a second. You find the perfect site, the client loves it, you've got this amazing vision, and then boom, the environmental report lands on your desk. The soil is contaminated, your dream project is sitting on toxic land. What on earth do you do now? Well, first things first, don't panic. You've got options. All right, think of this as building your own personal remediation toolkit. We're going to stock it with 4 really powerful methods. First, we've got a giant vacuum called vapor extraction. Then, we'll hire a microscopic cleanup crew with biodegradation. For the really tough jobs, we'll fire up a high-heat furnace with incineration. And for specialized cases, we've got a light-based fix called photolysis. And don't worry, we'll wrap it all up with the ultimate cheat sheet, so you know exactly which tool to grab and when.
First up in our toolkit, vapor extraction. Seriously, the best way to picture this is as a giant industrial-strength vacuum cleaner for the ground. It's designed to suck up some very specific, very volatile problems.
So how does this giant vacuum actually work? Well, the technical term is soil vapor extraction, or SVE for short. It's all about using these incredibly powerful pumps to create a vacuum underground, and it literally pulls nasty vapors, think gasoline spills or industrial solvents, right out of the soil.
Now, the details here are really important. SVE only works in what's called unsaturated soil. That's the drier soil that sits above the water table. See, by pulling air through this soil, the vacuum encourages those volatile chemicals to turn into a gas, which makes it super easy to just suck them up, collect them, and treat them safely.
And here is the single most important thing to remember. SVE is your go-to, your #1 choice for volatile organic compounds, VOCs. But, and this is a big but, it is useless in dense, clay soils or soil that's totally saturated with water. Why? Because the air just can't get through to do its job.
Okay, our next tool is pretty cool because it swaps all that heavy machinery for, well, biology. We're talking about biodegradation. With this method, we're basically hiring nature's own microscopic cleanup crew to do all the dirty work for us.
The process is also called bioremediation, and it is just fascinating. It takes advantage of microorganisms, bacteria and fungi that are already living in the soil. Or sometimes we give them a little help and introduce specific microbes to the site. And what's their job? It's simple. They eat, they digest, and they break down nasty contaminants into totally harmless stuff.
Now, one of the best things about this method is its flexibility. You can use it in soil, sure, but you can also use it in contaminated groundwater. You can do it in situ, which means right there on the site without digging everything up, or you can do it ex situ, where you actually excavate the soil and treat it somewhere else. Either way, the end result is the same. The microbes metabolize the bad stuff and turn it into simple things like carbon dioxide and water.
So, here's the bottom line. Biodegradation is an absolute rock star for organic compounds like oil and other fuels. It's way more eco-friendly and usually a lot cheaper. So what's the catch? Well, it can be slow, like really slow. And for it to work at all, the soil conditions have to be just right. The temperature, the oxygen levels, all of it, to keep that little microbe crew alive and hungry.
All right, time to bring out the big guns. Sometimes you're up against contaminants that are so toxic, so stubborn, that you just need a much more aggressive approach. And that is where in situ incineration comes in. You can think of it as a giant underground furnace.
The concept here is pretty much pure brute force. This method heats up the contaminated soil to insane temperatures right where it is. No digging required. That crazy high heat just obliterates the hazardous chemical compounds, leaving nothing but harmless materials behind.
So why would you ever use something so extreme? Well, it's really reserved for the worst of the worst. We're talking highly toxic pollutants that simply won't break down any other way. But the drawbacks are huge. It is incredibly expensive and it's high risk, which is exactly why you will almost never see this being used in or near a populated area.
And I really want you to let this sink in, especially for the exam. This method is so costly and so complex that it is very rarely the right answer.
Our final tool in the kit is definitely the most specialized of the bunch. Let's talk about photolysis. This is a light-based fix, and as you're about to see, it is very much a surface-level solution.
The science behind this is actually pretty cool.
Photolysis uses the energy from light, it can be natural sunlight or a concentrated artificial UV light, to literally break the chemical bonds holding pollutants together. These little UV photons act like tiny demolition crews, just shattering the harmful molecules apart.
So this really tells you about its very specific job. Photolysis can work on certain chemicals, like some pesticides, but, and here's the key, only when they are right on the surface of soil or water. Its biggest limitation is that it's just not a primary solution. Think of it as a supplementary tool you might use alongside other, more powerful methods.
And that is the main takeaway. If the contamination has soaked even an inch into the ground, photolysis is completely off the table. Its power is literally just skin deep.
Okay, so we've looked at a vacuum, a microbe crew, a furnace, and a light ray. 4 totally different tools for 4 very different kinds of problems. So, how do you keep them all straight and figure out how they stack up when it counts?
Well, let's put it all together in one place. This right here is your remediation cheat sheet. It's the complete comparison that boils down everything you absolutely need to know.
This slide is your golden ticket. Let's run through it one last time. First, vapor extraction. It's a vacuum for volatile stuff, like fuel. But just remember, it's no good in wet or clay soils. Next, biodegradation. Nature's crew for oil and organics, but its key weakness is that it's slow and needs the right conditions. Then we have in situ incineration, the big burn for super toxic waste, but it's wildly expensive and risky. And finally, photolysis, the light-based fix for surface-level stuff, but totally ineffective once you go underground. Go ahead, screenshot this, memorize it. This table is the core of what you need to know.
But of course, knowing all this isn't just about passing a test. Making the right choice out there in the real world has massive consequences. It's truly about protecting people's health and building a safer future on the land that we develop.
So now you have the fundamental toolkit. You can start to tackle a contaminated site. You get the options, you know their strengths, and you know their critical weaknesses. So the real question isn't just about what's on the exam, but what comes next. Knowing the tools is the first step. So, what will you build?